What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Full Court Talk podcast. My name is Spencer, and of course, this is my guy CJ.
Up,
And
guys?
be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for some more NBA content. But let's get right into it because we got some great stuff to talk about.
hmm
So, topic number one: Chris Paul to the Lakers. Now, since the Lakers are your team,
Yeah.
because you've been a fan for a long time, what do you think about this happening again?
Well, hey, man, all I have to say is I have some bad memories from that trade. Initially when it first went down, the players involved at the time, I didn't want them to get traded.
Yeah.
Powell, Lamar, like those guys, they were part of the core, so I didn't want them to get traded. But ultimately, it's crazy how it's resurfacing again after 9 years.
Yeah.
And so I would love to have CP3 on my team. Who wouldn't? He's defied father time, like as we saw last season. And I would definitely love him leading the team. I mean, you can't even deny the connection that he has with LeBron. And so, in terms of cap and all that stuff, I don't know the situation with certain players and what we could give up, but you already know my vote. Who gets to go?
Yep.
And so,
No, I was kidding.
yep. Hey, you know what? If it could be possible with one or both, and the players, for the people that don't know, Danny Green and Kyle Kuzma, these are guys that obviously I want to get traded. But if it's possible with one or two of those guys, and you can add in like a pick, I would definitely love to have him on my team. However, with the chemistry that Rondo already has too, and the fact that he's opting out, it's definitely something to consider. And so, who wouldn't want CP3 on their team, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially, coming off a championship season, I would love to have him, but I would only love to have him if everything falls in a line. So yeah.
Yeah, I think when you look at it, like LeBron and CP3 are best friends.
Yeah.
They're the banana boat guys together with Melo and Dwayne Wade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think with that being said, this really gives me Steve Nash vibes to Lakers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because an aging point guard, he's 35. You have LeBron
Yeah.
going to 36 in December.
Exactly.
And then you also add in Anthony Davis isn't the most durable player. He's dealt with
Unfortunately, yeah.
injuries his whole career.
Yeah.
And so you add that into the mix and you look at also coming off a short rest because the season's going to be a quick turnaround.
Oh, yeah.
We're looking at January now.
Yep.
So you add those three things and those guys were in the bubble. It's going to be tough to run something like that back out.
Yeah.
And depending on what you have to give up. And I was playing with the trade machine last night.
Yeah.
And it looks like you'd have to give up around 6 players.
Yeah. That is a
That's
lot.
including Danny Green. And you'd also have to re-sign KCP and
Yeah.
then immediately flip him.
Yeah.
And then also give up Kuz, which isn't a problem. You'd have to give up a lot of the bench. And these weren't even Jerry Dudley, Quinn Cook. These were the main players off the bench. And I think, if you could do it. But you're getting no bench help because you're going to have to be, scrounging at the bottom of the barrel of the free agency.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it's going to get tough for the Lakers. You have 2 aging superstars and an injury-prone player. You're not going to have any kind of backup.
Yeah.
So it would be really interesting on paper, but there's going to be a lot of questions.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
I think and CP3 is never he's also on the less durable side, I would say. So it's a good Chris Paul to the Lakers is great because it could have happened, like you said, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
But then add into the fact that he's really close with LeBron.
Yeah.
And we'd love to see it as NBA fans, but it's just
oh, yeah.
There would be a lot of questions going into that team.
Exactly.
But it would definitely, hopefully, give them a better chance to repeat, But it's just a lot of questions going into that.
Yeah, definitely.
But if they can make it happen without sending over their bench, actually do it in a heartbeat. You can just send over Kuz.
Yeah.
Easy. But going on to the second topic, because we got a long last topic. The Clippers are falling apart internally. We've talked about the Clippers so many times at this point, but just new things keep coming out. But according to Jovan Buha and Joe Varden, who are like Clippers beat writers, Patrick Beverley, Montrezl Harrell, and Lou Williams were bristled about Kawhi Leonard being able to sit out when he wanted and live in San Diego, which often forced them to miss team flights. Or not miss team flights, but leave late. And apparently, Doc Rivers had no control over when Kawhi wanted to play. Kawhi would come over to the bench like, I'm out, or I'm going in. No control whatsoever. And, like, if that's true, that's a really bad situation. And for any coach going into that, I don't know what you do. You can't talk back to a guy like Kawhi. He's such an integral part of that team. And you've spent so much to get him there. You want to make it work, but that's very concerning. And they they're completely falling apart outside and inside. Outside, you watch them lose a 3-1 lead. Internally, you have guys pushing out this information, this team information to reporters. And I guarantee it's either Montrezl Harrell, Lou Will, or Pat Bev. Or maybe all three of them are talking to them. Because those were guys that competed on the year before where they pushed the Warriors, to like Game 6. A good team. And then you add 2 superstars, you're like title favorites. And then they go burn in the second round. So maybe they're frustrated. But, like at the end of the day, like the Clippers went from title favorites to laughing stocks in a matter of the bubble. That's it. And I really have no idea what they're going to do. Like you're dealing with a lot of disgruntled players, not just disgruntled stars. You're dealing with a disgruntled team at this point. So what I really don't know. This is shocking that they have dealt with this much and they're letting all of this just come out, But what do you think about all this?
To be perfectly honest, like I want to give the Clippers the benefit of the doubt, but it's kind of difficult to do so. Like we've discussed, like we've been talking about the Clippers nonstop, and they weren't even they didn't even reach the Western Conference Finals, and everything that we've talked about has just been negative. You know what I mean? And so like we both agreed, somebody's leaking information, and these 3 guys that are linked to Kawhi is obviously the ones that makes more sense. I even included JaMychal Green in there because I know that he's gotten frustrated in the past as well.
And
but I also
want to,
Patrick Patterson, And so like Ty Lue, he has somewhat of an advantage over other newer coaches because he's been in the system. Obviously, he's worked under these players. I mean, with these players, and so like he definitely has an advantage over as opposed to like a newer coach. But in reality, like you said, it is difficult to get into a situation like this because, Kawhi, for somebody that doesn't talk, you don't know much about him. And lately, everything that you've been hearing is that it makes it seem like he's a superstar, meaning he's in a way a crybaby if he does do these things. You know what I mean? Like, it's making him seem like he's self-centered. Like, hey, I'm the face of this franchise, so I do whatever I want. And that's what the players are making it seem like he has over this whole organization. And, it's tough to gauge, especially with everything that's going on. However, like the Clippers, after they lost, they said that chemistry was a big issue. And if anything, we didn't believe them because of what they had during the regular season. But now they're proving that to be the case because, a lot of players are talking. It seems like a lot of players are jealous over the other. And it's going to be like a difficult turnaround, even for Ty Lue, no matter what advantage he has. And so, like, let's not lie. Like Kawhi is the face of the franchise. However, if things are happening in this type of matter, it should be kept in house. I mean, I don't know what the intention is, whoever's leaking, whether to blow up the Clippers internally or they want out of the team. But I think that the Clippers need to get it together because, like you said, like the NBA season starts in January. That's at least that's what they're targeting. And so, like, if they're gonna make a run, a successful run, it has to start with Kawhi. And it doesn't look like it's gonna move away from a bubble setting, so that's what it looks like it's gonna be.
Yeah.
So these guys need to get it together fast, form a bond through Zoom if they have to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so like pushing forward, like Lou Will, Trez, you got to feel for them because, like you said, they pushed the Warriors to 6 games, and adding 2 superstar players, they were primed to take the leap, but they fell short. And so, usually when a team disappoints, a lot of disappointing news tends to leak. But I don't think I've ever seen anything like this ever. And so, like, pushing forward, like, the Clippers got to get it together. They have a new coach. They have a new opportunity to make things right. They are currently the laughingstock of the NBA because, as you see, the Lakers won the championship and the Clippers caught the slander, not even Miami.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, they have a short time to get it together. So they need to do that ASAP.
Yeah, and I think, like, I've seen reports that said, like, a lot of the Clipper, like, bench players think they're better than Paul George.
Yeah.
That's what he did.
Yeah.
Like, we've covered
with good reason.
Yeah, like, we've covered how Paul George made a, like, inspirational speech at the end of Game 7, and it was met with rolled eyes. So, like, this team is just, it's something else. Like, you have such, like, an abundance of talent. You can't put it together.
Unfortunately,
and then you also add into the fact that you lost a 3-1 lead. Then you go and blame it on chemistry.
Yeah.
And then you just throw out all of these pretty disturbing news if I'm a Clippers fan.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm a Kawhi fan, I'm thinking, like, what's this guy doing?
Exactly.
Because he is just – he's turning into a diva at this point.
Yeah.
And it's – if I'm the Lakers, I'm like, dang, we dodged a bullet.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Because that's insane. That's just it's really sad what's coming, like, to fruition because Kawhi was such a sought-after player after the championship with Toronto. And then he comes to the Clippers, and you hear all of these, like, negative things.
Yeah.
So it's pretty crazy because we never heard a single negative thing about him when he was in Toronto.
Yeah.
But, I guess it is what it is because Clippers don't look like they're going to get much better.
I don't think so.
I hope not. I'm tired of them.
Yeah.
But, let's get into the next one. The draft is coming up November 18th. I'm excited as a Warriors fan. This is going to be an interesting draft. Like, this is going to be one of the most odd, I think. We're going to go over the top 5 picks, and we'll go 5 every week till we get to 15.
Okay.
But, yeah, it's going to be pretty odd. There's no obvious choice like last year. There's various players could go number 1. It really depends on who gets the trade because I don't think the Warriors keep their pick. I don't think the Timberwolves at this point keep their pick. And it looks like a lot of teams are trying to trade up because this is a pretty top-heavy draft in terms of who you want. And we'll get into that. But this is still one of the weakest drafts that we've seen. You're going to find a good role player in the top 15, but you're not going to find a superstar like Donovan Mitchell, Tyler Hero kind of confidence. But it's rare you get a team like the Golden State Warriors in the draft. I mean, you get a team that was a dynasty a few years ago. They have an injury-plagued season, and they're primed to bounce right back.
Exactly.
So this is going to be a really interesting draft. And for me, like, I'm so excited. I haven't really cared about a draft in years. But let's get to the first pick. The Minnesota Timberwolves, in my opinion, if they keep the pick, they're going to select Anthony Edwards. He's super athletic, got good scoring mechanics. I think he definitely has something to figure out with his selection.
Yeah.
But putting a trio of D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, it's pretty good. It's a good young core. You have a lot of offensive-minded guys.
Yeah.
And plus, Anthony Edwards is 6'5", 225 pounds. He's a big guy.
He is.
And he could play two ways. If you get him motivated, he can play two ways. And I think he's one of the most athletic players in the draft. Not the best jumper, but he has enough tools to get his own. He's a good ISO player.
Mm-hmm.
But even with those positives, his biggest concern is the fact that he's never won on any level.
Yeah.
He's never won in high school. He chose a college that wasn't going to compete. I believe he didn't even win an AAU. So as an NBA team, if I'm looking at that, I'm very concerned. Because you have guys like Draymond who won at every level.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys willed their way to winning. LeBron James in high school, but he was one of the best high school players of all time. So
exactly.
But another huge concern is he has terrible shot selection. He shot 40% from the field, 29% from three. He relies on a lot of hero ball, and it could be because he plays with a bad team. Maybe he thinks, I'm going to just try and score every time.
He has to be that guy.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's concerning because that shows why he was losing.
Yeah.
But he's also very lazy on defense. He falls asleep a lot, lets his man cut, get easy buckets. And it could be a difficult addition early on because D'Lo and Cat don't play defense. So there's a lot of what ifs in this, but LaMelo Ball wouldn't make sense for this team because D'Angelo is not a off guard player.
He's not.
Cat is for a big man, he needs the ball to score. He likes to get his own. He likes to hit that step back jumper.
Yeah.
And clogging the lane with LaMelo and Cat might be difficult. But that's why we say that this is a weird draft because Anthony Edwards is far from a typical number one selection.
Yeah.
But who do you think they'll select?
To be honest, I had, with Doc Rivers going to the Sixers, I had this pick going to them because of the rumors, escalating, Ben Simmons for LaMelo, but at the end of the day, I feel like the Timberwolves are going to go a different direction from that trade. And I think they are going to select Anthony Edwards. Like you said, this draft is very weird. There's no clear dominant number one player, but I think teams are obviously filling the needs for their roster, right?
Yeah.
So I think they're just drafting with the best available talent, like what they do every year. It's just that there's just no dominant talent. Yeah. But Anthony Edwards makes the most sense for the Timberwolves because, he could play off of D'Lo. D'Lo demands the ball. And Anthony Edwards, obviously, like you said, his accolades don't really show that much. He is like a great player. He can get better. I was watching an interview that he had with Taylor Rooks and that what he wanted to do coming into the draft and upon getting drafted is to work on his defense. So he wants to challenge himself there. So that's good for him, becoming a two-way player. But he has good size. He's very athletic. Although he's played a lot of hero ball, he's going to get that reality shifted fast when it comes to NBA. He's going to see how it should work as a team if you want to win games. You know what I mean? And so, D'Lo, him, and Cat, they could form like a formidable trio. It just has to work. And like I said, he could play off ball from both of these guys who demand the ball. And so, Minnesota definitely has like a good piece to trade. But if they want to invest in their future, as opposed to win now, I think he would be the best option available. So, yeah.
And I think we've also seen that they want to win now because they're definitely afraid of losing Cat.
True.
And And it honestly feels like Cat's already went out. Like, he's got a foot out the door. He doesn't
Yeah.
really seem like he wants to be there, even after
Yeah.
the D'Angelo Russell trade.
Yeah.
He didn't even go to their voluntary workouts. I get he was on vacation. But
Yeah.
I saw a video of the owner, and they're like, "Oh, how come Carl's not here?" He's like, "Oh, he didn't need to be," or something like that. He like
Yeah.
said something like he avoided the question. He was just like very dodgy.
Yeah.
So it just feels very odd with this team. But I mean, D'Lo, he's gonna get his own. He's a great
Yeah.
player. We've seen how he works. Cat, if he does choose to leave, that's gonna be a
Mm-hmm.
huge blow to Minnesota. And if
Yeah.
they don't, like, that's why I would keep the pick.
Mm-hmm.
Because this guy seems like he wants out.
Yeah.
And I get how much you want to keep him, but
Yeah.
keep that pick. Because
Yeah.
you need to build something if he does.
Yeah.
So
True.
it's going to be tough because the number one pick isn't as easy as people think, especially in
Yeah.
a draft like this.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the Anthony Bennett's, and if
Yeah.
you end up with someone like him, you're screwed. Because
Yeah.
he
It's a waste
offers
of a pick.
nothing.
Exactly.
I mean, that dude couldn't even stay on a EuroLeague team, so that's
Yeah.
pretty bad. But
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you take the second pick since I went first last time. Who do you think the Warriors are going to select?
You know what? I was actually in between when I was, doing my research for the sake of the draft. I was in between two players, and you already know James Wiseman is one of them, but the other is LaMelo because he definitely would have been intriguing. He would have been another Splash brother,
Yeah.
Splash Junior. You know what I mean? And so, like, ultimately, at the end of the day, I figured that they're gonna move past that because they don't want to deal with the antics
Yeah.
and all that. The Warriors are a professional organization, and I think they're gonna make the best pick possible. I'm going to go with James Wiseman. As we've highlighted before, I think he fits the bill the best. Although he's a young player, I've said this before with other people that I've discussed with the Warriors. Like Draymond makes bigs better.
Yeah.
You see the track record that he has with Damian Jones, Jordan Bell, Kevon Looney, Ezeli. These guys they came out of the college like an established player. They had their own fair share of successful, wins and accolades and whatnot. But coming into the NBA is obviously a difficult transition. Draymond Green made their job that much more easier because, he's a smart player. And, playing with a smart player makes the game so much easier, obviously. He tells you where to go. I mean, look what he did with Jordan Bell. Like one of the best examples that I can offer is, Jordan Bell missed a dunk in the playoffs, and Draymond was like, hey, next play, got the same exact thing on a breakaway, slammed it home.
Yeah.
And so and that was Jordan Bell's rookie season. And so James Wiseman obviously is better than Jordan Bell, and he's a unicorn. Not like Kristaps Porzingis type unicorn, but a unicorn. 6'11", can run the floor, can handle it, can shoot. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of him even before COVID happened, because his college situation. But we have to judge based out of workouts and 5-on-5s and all that stuff. But I think going forward, I think he would be the best fit for the Warriors if the Warriors decide to keep them.
Yeah.
But I mean, as we know, I think they are going to trade him. But in terms of long term, if they do want to keep the pick, I'm going to go with Wiseman. Just makes more sense.
I would actually select LaMelo in this situation.
Okay.
He's a guy that he's 6'8", so he's a huge guard.
Yeah.
He's arguably the best ball brother coming
Mm-hmm.
out of coming into the draft. He
Yeah.
offers the most offensive play, I think, for the Warriors. The Warriors love to run, and he's a guy that excels in the open court.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have LaMelo running down the middle, Steph, Clay on either side. It's going to be nasty. But I think I'm not super sold on Wiseman
Mm-hmm.
in terms of I've heard his motivation lacks at times, but I think also the ability to have a 3-guard lineup and having Steph more off ball,
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be an exciting thing to see.
Yeah.
And like you said, like Draymond makes everybody better, and maybe he could get LaMelo to lock in defensively
True.
because he's come a long way since calling his shot at half court in Chino Hills.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely matured. He's gotten
Yeah.
to a better developed point guard. I think he's got one of the best passing abilities that we've seen in a long time,
Mm-hmm.
probably since his brother.
Yeah.
I think he's also adding weight to his skinny frame, which is really good because he stands at like 180, which is
Mm-hmm.
insane. At
Yeah.
6'8" and you're 180.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it's pretty light.
Yeah.
But he's also been a pro for a long time, longer than
Yeah.
a lot of these other guys. You know, he played with the Illawarra Hawks in the Australian League. Not a great league. He was on one of the worst teams.
Yeah.
But he played
Yeah.
with some good talent. There was an NBA player on this team. I think Aaron Brooks is on this team.
Mm-hmm.
So
Aaron Brooks.
he has a lot of skill. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
His jumper is definitely shaky. 25% from 3, 37.5 from the field. So his shot selection needs to get better. And on defense, he definitely is lazy.
Yeah.
But I think with his playmaking ability and his slashing ability, he should be able to get some good looks on the Warriors. And the only thing he would have to do is come off the bench.
Yeah.
And that'd be the biggest thing. Like, his dad has said he won't, but LaMelo has refuted this every time. The Warriors are actually one of the only other teams other than the Knicks to talk to him so far. So the Warriors are definitely interested, but here I think most likely they're going to trade the pick for a big. I don't know who. I think you could trade back for Mitchell Robinson.
Yeah.
Or just trade the pick for a Miles Turner. But if it takes a lot to get Miles Turner, I wouldn't do it. But I think the Warriors would go with LaMelo if he's available.
Mm-hmm.
He just adds a lot of interesting lineups you could do. You can go real small, have Draymond at the 5, Wiggins at the 4, and LaMelo at the 3. I think it'd be super interesting, but it would really take just not dealing with the antics that his dad brings. I mean, you know what they're like as a Laker fan.
Exactly.
So it would be very interesting, and I really don't know what the Warriors are going to do. But let's get on to the third pick. I have the Hornets selecting James Wiseman.
Mm-hmm.
The Hornets have arguably the worst roster in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
They have no stars. They didn't have the worst record, but they lack an identity. They have no star power. And I know that they would want to draft a LaMelo Ball mostly, just because he offers that star power. Anthony Edwards even. But Wiseman is a great pick for them.
Yeah.
They've invested stupidly into Terry Rozier. They gave him a big fat contract. And he's been okay. But I think something that they were able to find was Devontae Graham.
Yep.
He's a good player. His stats do kind of lie. He's a great shooter and a good overall scorer, but he's a poor playmaker and a poor defensive player. Great off the bench kind of guy. Offers that just explosive punch off the bench.
Yep.
But, he's 6'1", so he's on the smaller side. He's a 2 in a point guard body, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But if you give him like a James Wiseman, and it should really help ease some of the offensive tension off of him, because I know he shot around 35% from the field.
Yeah.
So he didn't have a great statistical year, but, they just need someone another option other than Terry Rozier, Devontae Graham. Miles Bridges is decent.
Yeah.
Can't do much else other than high-flying dunks. He's a decent shooter.
Mm-hmm.
But they need a big man. They don't need Bismack Biyombo. That's their big. That's not an option.
Exactly.
But, you know, we don't really know Wiseman that well. And I think that's the huge takeaway here is he didn't show any weaknesses because he played 3 games in college.
Yeah.
And he showed off for those 3 games. He averaged 30 points, 15 rebounds, something like that. He had some great games, but at the end of the day, it's 3 games.
Exactly.
He could be the best player out of the gates. I don't think he's going to be the best player of this draft. I think I've seen reports saying that he's not going to be a star. Just because, it's hard for a big man to really be a star nowadays because back-to-basket's not really a thing.
Yeah.
And he needs to develop his jumper a little more. I think he's got a decent jumper. But, Wiseman is a great pick for the Hornets who just need help everywhere.
Yeah.
So I think they'd happily take him. But who do you have the Hornets selecting at 3?
To be honest, I have your order switched. So I do have them getting LaMelo.
Yeah.
I think after, 3 and 4, those positions, I think they're intertwined. Not 2 and 3, I mean, sorry. 2 and 3 are intertwined. Whichever the Warriors pick, obviously, it's not going to be a different player from what, the range of pulls that these guys have. But so I have them choosing LaMelo. I have them choosing LaMelo because, like you said, the Terry Rozier experiment has failed. It hasn't gotten them anywhere. And also with Devontae Graham, who should have been an MIP discussion, I have to say, he is a shooting guard in a point guard body. And, getting LaMelo, who's a pass-first kind of guy, would definitely benefit him moving forward. If he's putting up numbers being the point guard of this team, imagine what he can do being the off guard. And so, they definitely do need a big, because Bismack is not cutting it. Hernan Gomez is not cutting it. The Hornets just need help everywhere. They'll obviously take the best available prospect that's left on the board. But I think, in order to bring excitement back to Buzz City, to MJ, I think they're willing to risk the LaMelo Ball antics with LeVar and all that, just to get some crowd involvement. You know what I mean? And so LaMelo is his own person, and he's definitely refuted his father's claims and all that stuff. And I think contrary to what people believe, whatever team he goes to, he's gonna not really completely ignore, but he's gonna ignore all the reckless side of his father.
Yeah.
And just play. And so I think, the Hornets would be very glad to pick up either Wiseman or Ball. But I have LaMelo going to them. He can run their offense. And with a coach like they got, I feel like he has similar tendencies as to Atlanta's coach and what he does for Trae Young. So I felt like, he did the same thing. The Hornets coach did the same thing for Devontae Graham. So with that said, having LaMelo, he needs a coach that will allow him to be himself. You can't discipline Melo into being somebody else.
Yeah.
And I like what the Warriors can do for him, improving everything else, playing with great players, obviously. But with the Hornets, I feel like he'll have more green light. And so that he'll definitely thrive on that. And he can play alongside Devontae Graham, which is arguably the Hornets' best player.
Yeah.
So
I think he is.
Yeah.
I mean this is a very bad Hornets team.
It is.
I think it's pretty insane that they thought Terry Rozier, that's our guy.
Yeah, exactly.
MJ has made some questionable decisions in the past. We've seen this.
Yeah.
But let's move on to the Chicago Bulls pick. Who do you think they're going to select at 4?
Well, you know what? I was torn, but I had to think about their front court lineup and how there's a clog there. I wanted Obi to go to these guys, But I'm gonna have to go with the point guard from Auburn, Isaac Okoro. You know, he has good size.
Yeah.
He's 6'6". You know, they already have Kobe White, so I feel like they're gonna implement him to be a two position because I mean I don't think the Bulls have anybody playing that two spot other than Zach LaVine. You know, David Nwaba, although he's like a good backup, like if I'm not mistaken, I think he tore his Achilles, so he's been out.
I think they dropped him.
Yeah,
I
so
think
there's that too.
he's on another team now.
Mm.
He was in the bubble.
Oh, okay. He
Yeah,
was
he
okay.
played. I don't think he played. Obviously, I think he's on the Rockets. I want to say.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
Well, yeah. Well, regardless, then there you go. It's just Zach
yeah,
Levine. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And so, like, you know, Isaac Okoro, like, he's a young guy. You know, he has good size at 6'6". He could definitely play backup to Zach Levine, play alongside Kobe White. You know, they don't need a point guard,
yeah,
so they shouldn't grab one. I mean, they have Otto Porter, so that's another thing that made me like shy away from the Obi Toppin draft. But you know, their front court. I mean, their front court is just stacked with bigs like Wendell Carter, Lauren Markkinen, like you know that guy from France. I forgot his name, but yeah. So I think it would make more sense to draft Isaac Okoro.
yeah.
You know, he put up numbers for Auburn. You know, and so pushing forward, like this is a great fit for him. And he could play alongside Kobe White because Kobe White, like towards the end of the season, he was putting up some big numbers for them. You know what I mean? Obviously, they weren't making the playoffs,
Yeah.
so I'm pretty sure. And you know, the coaching situation was difficult, so they were just you know doing what they can to get by. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I have Isaac Okoro going to them.
I mean, if you look at it, like Jim Boylan waited like
Yeah,
45, 50 games, just like give him constant play time.
yeah, to free him.
And it's like, that was your
Yeah,
top 10 pick. Just play him. He was your
exactly. Yeah,
best point guard. You have Chris Dunn as
yeah,
your backup or your starting guard. And he showed nothing.
exactly.
You know, we talked about Jim Boylan. We're glad he's
Yeah,
gone.
yep.
I actually have the Bulls selecting Denny Avila
Hmm.
at Diha. I'm gonna
Yeah,
call him Denny.
yeah.
You know, he's a Euro player from Israel.
Hmm.
Uh, can't really look at his stats. He averaged like 4 points, but he was on a EuroLeague team. He was getting constant play time. Played
Hmm.
26 games for them. In limited minutes, he was able to play a lot or play pretty well. He showed his playmaking abilities, and I think that's
Yeah,
exactly what this team needs is a point forward kind of guy because he stands at 6'9".
yeah. He
So
has
he's a
good size.
huge upside for a team like the Bulls.
Hmm.
But the thing about a guy like Denny is that he needs to be in the right situation
Exactly.
to excel. And I
Hmm.
think that's where the Bulls come in because you already have an established core with
Yeah.
Kobe White, Zach LaVine, Laurie Markkinen, and
Hmm.
Wendell Carter.
Yeah.
So they're missing that three. Otto Porter is good, but he's not great. They're
Yeah.
missing that playmaking guy, and I think that's where Zach LaVine will love this because he's probably tired of taking down the ball every time and trying to
Hmm.
get his own. Maybe he can come off some screens, just doing some catch and shoot.
Yeah.
That's where a guy like this can really come in and thrive for them,
Yeah.
and he could definitely be a matchup nightmare because that would make this
Hmm.
team pretty big. Because I think Kobe White's already like 6'4".
Yeah.
That means he's your shortest guy on the court as your two, and Denny
Hmm.
Avila as your one, or even your three. Like, there's a lot of options you can do with this.
Yeah.
Um, and the Bulls aren't going to be pressured into succeeding right away. They have a chance to really grow
Yeah.
Denny and let him come into his own.
Hmm.
And so I think the Bulls would be very happy with the Denny Avila pick because he's a good player, and I think he's going to be a great player someday. Um, but I think the only problem that we're going to see here is that we've seen a lot of Euro guys just not pan out. Look at Darko Milicic going before Carmelo.
Yeah.
That is going to go down. It has gone down as one of the worst picks of all time.
Exactly.
And that's where, I mean, Mario Hezonja
Yeah,
had
disappointing.
so much potential. Went at that number 4 spot, never did a single thing.
Yeah.
So Euro guys are scary to draft, but it's become popular again because of Luka. Everyone's looking for the next Luka. So it's going to be interesting, but falling to 4 years probably better, especially going under Billy Donovan.
Exactly.
Getting a new coach, getting someone young, falling into that right system / team.
And he's patient.
So important. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to have patience with Russell Westbrook. So
yeah,
I think Denny would be the best pick here. Like you said, Obi Toppin would be a great player to have because he's so NBA ready. We'll get into him in the next one because I have him as my next pick. But this Bulls team is primed to be very good next season.
I agree.
And I think whoever they go here will be very happy to go to the Bulls.
Yeah.
But for the 5th pick, the Cleveland Cavaliers, I can have them, obviously, like I said, selecting Obi Toppin.
I agree.
He's arguably one of the most polished players in the draft. He's a great, just offensive player. Shot 63% from the field, 39 from 3 for a big. That is really good.
Yeah.
And I would think he'd hover around 35, 36% from 3 in the NBA. He shows a good amount of potential for an inside-out player. And he is so athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, he gives me Aaron Gordon vibes on the offensive dunking end. He's a guy that jumps out of the gym. You know, he's a very interesting player.
Yeah.
And like we've seen, like the Timberwolves, I saw a report today that Timberwolves were looking at him for
they're considering him. Yeah.
There's a like we said, this is a weird draft. We don't know who's gonna go number 1.
Yeah.
And it could be a smokescreen. I don't know. But the biggest question mark with him is his defense.
Exactly.
He lacks a lot of defensive IQ. He struggles on the defensive end. And in college, he did average 1 steal and 1 block. But for bigs, like 1 block isn't great because there's no defensive 3 in college. So you're camping in the lane.
Yeah.
So that's kind of concerning. He also doesn't rebound very well. He averaged 7 a game at 6'9" and 220. Probably should be rebounding a bit more.
Yeah.
But the Cavs take Obi here, I think. If Obi falls into their lap, I would be ecstatic.
Yeah.
Because you have guys like Kevin Love and Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond's going to walk.
I think so, too.
Unless he takes his player option.
Yeah.
And even if he does, the Cavs don't want him. I don't know why they traded for him. And even Kevin Love. Kevin Love's on his way out. He wants to leave, but the Cavs think they can get a first pick or a good just player for him. You're not. He's like 34. He's aging, hasn't played well because he's been injured a lot. So the Cavs just need to look at themselves in the mirror and be like, yeah, let's flip him for something. But Obi gives you a great young core with Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. You know, you got your backcourt set. Get that front court young, get athletic, and, you know, offensively, that would be a very good team because Darius Garland is a really good player.
Yeah.
And I think last season was a bit of a difficult season because I think he kind of struggled. But this Cavs team should be pretty good next year. They're not going to make the playoffs or anything.
Yeah.
But
they'll
should
be better,
able to
though.
build. Yeah, they should be able to build upon last season. And they were the worst in the East. So getting Obi Toppin here would be very good for them. But
I agree.
You had Obi too?
Yeah, I definitely had Obi going to the Cavs. Like you said, you know, their front court isn't getting any younger. Drummond, although he's still fairly young, he's on his way out.
Yeah.
You know, I definitely don't see him sticking with the Cavs. And like you said, I don't know why they traded for him. But getting Obi here, he's definitely one of the more NBA ready guys from this draft. And like you brought up, like the Timberwolves are actually looking at him, whether it's a smoke screen or not. They're looking at him for that first pick, because they like what they saw with what he did in Dayton. And you know what? Like I can compare his career so far because he hasn't made the NBA obviously to Kemba Walker. Kemba started out like with Connecticut, and so it wasn't until like his third or fourth year where he really broke out. And same thing with Obi. You know what I mean? You don't know about Obi, like you didn't hear about him coming into the past 4 years that he's been in college. And so the fact that he broke out this year with Dayton, had him in the number 1 seed, one of the title favorites for the national championship. He was primed to make that leap, and I think he was going to make his stock go even higher when it comes to the draft. I mean, the March Madness tournament. You know what I mean? So the Cavs would definitely be glad to have him. And it's funny that you had Denny because I had him next. But that's obviously the next week.
Yeah.
But Obi would definitely give these guys somebody they can run with. Darius Garland and Colin Sexton, these guys like to run, and Obi's mobile enough to run with these two guys. He's athletic enough to catch lobs. It's just like you said, defense is going to be an issue for him. With his size, he's going to be guarding bigs that can beat you out the dribble. You can even argue that 6'9" isn't as big as people used to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could say that these guys are big guards. So he had to be able to keep up. And so the Cavs would definitely love to have Obi. He's not a LeBron James-esque player, obviously.
Yeah.
But he would bring excitement back to the Cavs after LeBron left them with. So,
yeah, I think Obi would be a really good pick for them. They need a younger core.
Yeah.
Because like you said, their front court is aging. Mm-hmm. And Drummond, it's going to be very difficult to pay a guy like him. It's hard to pay a big man now. Because you can get a Marquise Chris that does the same thing.
Yeah.
Maybe not 15, 16 rebounds, but he's going to get his own.
Exactly.
And we've seen the big men now. It's a dying breed.
It is, unfortunately.
Yeah. Obi Toppin is unicorn-esque because his ability to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
But, you look at, a guy like Aaron Gordon who struggled to make any kind of impact, I want to say. So it could be a concern here, but I think Obi is too much of a, spectacle to pass up. And plus, he's shown that he's ready for the NBA. Aaron Gordon never really showed that in Arizona. He had the potential to be really good. And the Magic took him off of that. I mean, he wasn't even supposed to go top 5, but he did.
Yeah.
So, it'll be really interesting to see what happens with the Cavs. We say that with every pick, because, like we said, this is a weird draft.
Yeah.
You really don't know what's gonna happen.
Yep.
Because we said, Obi could go number 1, I guess.
Yeah.
We don't know. This is just gonna be a very fun draft to watch. And I'm excited to see what the Warriors do. We didn't even get to talk about this, but I think Devin Vessel, he's another guy the Warriors are looking at, but then he posted a video of his jumper.
Yeah.
And it was god-awful. He changed something with it, and it was, all the way back here.
Yeah.
And, it's concerning for some guys, but that's going to do it for the 13th podcast. Thanks to my guy CJ hopping on again. A little early because I got something to do today, but
no worries.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Check out the website fullcourttalk.com. But catch you guys in the next one.